Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CERIAS weekly seminar series for the first talk of the semester. It's my honor to introduce Stanislav Kroglik. He's a research fellow in the School of Physical and Mathematical Sciences at NTU in Singapore. Stanislav earned his PhD in Theoretical Foundations of Computer Science from Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology in Russia. He is an IEEE senior member and a recipient of the Simons Foundation Scholarship. His work has appeared in top venues, including IEEE Transactions on Information Forensics and Security, and in the European Symposium on Research in Computer Science. His research interests are in information theory, and today he's going to talk about how to obtain the correct file in a PIR protocol. Thank you, Stanislav. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction, Professor Goel, and thank you very much for inviting me to give a talk, especially the first talk of the semester within Center for Education Research in Information Assurance and Security Research Seminar in Purdue University. My name is Stanislav Kruglik, and today we'll talk about querying twice, how to ensure we obtain the correct file in a private information retrieval protocol. So let me start with the definition. What's the private information retrieval protocol? The private information retrieval problem was initially introduced in 1996 by a seminal paper by Chor et al. In Foundation of Computer Science Symposium in IEEE. And the idea is as follows. So we have a database of M files, and we have a client who wants to retrieve one file from this database while keeping the identity of the file hidden from the database server. So for example, you have a database with medical records and want to extract the medical record of specific patient and want to ensure that the identity of this patient is hidden. And the formal formulation is as follows. We have a database with M files replicate on K servers. So we consider replicated database setting. And the user wants to retrieve the file xi by keeping its identity private from any group of up to T servers. So we consider threshold security. And by later, we mean that the identity of index of interest is equiprobable. So in our word, index identity is information theoretically private. And in this talk, we focus only on information theoretically private information retrieval protocols. Definitely, there are a lot of research in this area, and especially because private information retrieval protocols finds their application in many areas, such as private web search, private contact discovery, private DNAs, private detection of whatever a user's password is contained in the linked password database, private lightweight clients for cryptocurrencies, and so on. And as a result, it became a focal point of many cryptographic researchers, of many cryptographic conferences, such as Crypto, S&P, Unique Security, and even last Crypto 2024, there was a section dedicated to private information retrieval problem. And importantly, as I'm thinking, one of the main reasons why it became extremely popular recently is because of recent advances in speeding up the performance of private information retrieval protocol. So because before it was only a theoretical problem with very slow implementation, but recently the situation was drastically changed and it became more practical, and the throughput can be attained in such a level that it can be used in practical systems. And as a result, I decided to consider this problem. And before I proceed further, let me introduce a simple example to explain how private information retrieval protocol works and consider a simple case of two servers. And we want is a scenario when we want to ensure that index of file of interest is hidden from any single server. So we can, in this case, we can represent the database as a vector of m elements, x1 till xm. And if we want to retrieve a file xi, we just can multiply the database vector with identity vector of file of interest. So like it's a vector of all zeros except one in position I. And as a result, we get xi. And to ensure that the index of file of interest is hidden, we need to hide an indicator vector of file of interest. How it can be done? Here we can use the techniques from wiretap channel 2 introduced by Weiner Azarov in 1984. And here we can create a random vector R of length m. R is equals to R1 till Rm, and as a query to server 1, we can send just the sum of indicator vector of file of interest and this random vector. And as a query to server 2, we can just send the random vector. And as a result, what we have, so like we ask each server as before to find the scalar product of query with the database vector. And you can see the result of these queries here. And as you can notice, the results of this query is different only in one position. So the result of first query is higher when the result is bigger when the result of the second query by xi. So to get the file xi, we can just subtract the result of first query and the result of the second query and get the file of interest. And clearly, for any single server, the queries to a single server is just a randomness. So for the server, each index is equiprobable and it can be easily proven. And actually, since the topic was introduced in 1996, so it was heavily investigated by many communities. And actually, in literature exist two main optimization criterion, so download cost and communication cost. In download cost, we consider the database with a small number of files, but the files are extremely large. So for example, is a database of some digital content, of some movies, and so on and so on. And here we can neglect the upload cost. So we can count only download because we don't have a lot of files, but the files are very large. So like we can optimize only the download cost. And this formulation is popular among information theory community. Also, it's another formulation, and this formulation was used in the initial paper on private information retrieval, is a communication complexity. In this case, we have a database with many files, and files are binary. And this formulation is popular among computer science and crypto community. And if you will read some papers from S&P, for example, or crypto, most of these papers will consider the second notion of private information retrieval protocol. However, most of current schemes existing in literature assumes that servers are honest but curious, and we only collude, so we only exchange queries to them with each other in order to get some extra information about identity of file of interest. But importantly, we always provide a correct responses to the queries. However, such an assumption can be guaranteed within a cloud environment, and this poses an interesting question. What can the user do? What can the client do if servers provide wrong responses? And this problem was also found solution in several papers. Unfortunately, there is some confusion with naming. So one paper named one like notion of adversarial resistance by one way, and now one used with the same title for another notion of adversarial resistance. And what was done by me and my co-authors, Professors Han Mao Kiah and Huasheng Huang from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, Dr. Son Huang Dao from RMIT Australia, and Liang Feng Zhang from Shanghai Tech, we classify the existed solutions for adversarial resistant private information retrieval protocols. So let's consider a simple scenario like we have two servers, one of we serve adversarial, and adversarial server provide incorrect responses to the queries sent to it. And the main goal of this server is to persuade us to accept an incorrect value of a file which we want to retrieve. For some purposes, for example, I don't know, like we ask for like prices for some stocks, and he want us to get wrong price for his stock. And the lowest level of adversarial resistance is verifiability. And in this case, we know that the final result is incorrect, but we do not know which server is adversarial. Importantly, such a scheme can be deployed for two server solutions, two server case, and the solutions can be information theoretically secure. So we can deploy such a scheme without relying on any cryptographic assumptions. And also another notion of adversarial resistance is accountability. In this case, The client know that the file result is incorrect and know which servers are adversarial. This scheme can also be deployed for two-server case. However, to the best of my current knowledge, all of such schemes are computationally secure. So we rely on some commitment schemes and based on some cryptographic assumptions. The strongest security level is provided by Byzantine resistance schemes, and in this case, we can retrieve the correct file even if some servers are adversarial. However, we need at least 3 servers in this case. And some solutions are information theoretically secure. Most of the solutions are information theoretically secure, and importantly, we have extremely large overhead for Byzantine resistant scheme. Also, as I told, there are a lot of private information retrieval protocol, and what have been done, we introduced unified polynomial framework for private information retrieval protocol, so to have something which can cover under the same umbrella different private information retrieval schemes. And in this case, the database is represented as a coefficient of certain low degree polynomial fx, and the client doesn't know coefficients of this polynomial, and because we correspond to the file of the database which is unknown to the client, and each file corresponds to the value of this polynomial at specific point, and file retrieval process can be represented as evaluation of this polynomial at specific point z, and the value of z should be kept private from any group of up to t colluding servers to ensure the privacy of index of retrieved file. By privacy here, we mean information theoretic privacy. So each value of z is equiparable from the perspective of any group of up to t colluding servers. In a specific choice of fx, we can recover well-known private information retrieval protocol like those given by Chor, Goldberg, and Woodruff-Yohannan. As a result, we can obtain private information retrieval protocols optimized with respect to either the load cost or communication complexity, and to recover the value of polynomial fx at the point of interest, and as a result, to retrieve the file of interest, the client sends over specifically selected points to each service which participate in the private information retrieval protocol and request the value of the polynomial at those points, along with partial derivatives of up to a certain order in some cases, for example, in the Woodruff-Yohannan scheme. And for example, in scheme which I presented before, in TOR example scheme, which is actually a Goldberg scheme, this polynomial has the following shape. So it's just the product of xi, so of the files with some intermediate variables z1 till zm. So x1 times z1 plus x2 times z2 till xm times zm. And in case of Woodruff-Yohannan scheme is the following. So it's x1 times z1, z2, z3 plus x2 times z1, z2, z4 plus x3, z1, z3, z4 plus x4, z2, z3, z4 is for the case of 4 files. And clearly, for example, if we want to retrieve file x1, we need to find the value of this polynomial in point 1110, and we can get it by sending to each server Shamir share of 1110. So we can Shamir share the vector which corresponds to the value x1, and ask each server to return the value of polynomial fx in the corresponding share, along with the values of partial derivatives of order 1, and after it we can recover the value of polynomial f in point 1110, and as a result get the value x1. So before the introduction of private information retrieval protocols, before introduction of different level of resistance to adversarial behavior, I can move to a verifiable protocol and explain how we can make almost all private information retrieval protocols verifiable, or in other words, how can we check either the file which we retrieve correct or not. So in our protocol, we attain information theoretical verifiability, which means that the client can detect the presence of up to T servers what can try to convince him to accept an incorrect file with a certain probability without relying on any cryptographic assumptions. So in our world, we construct T information theoretically secure schemes. In case when we rely on some cryptographic assumptions, we get T computationally secure scheme. And as I told, we can transform almost all polynomial part information retrieval protocols into verifiable one by, and the main idea here is what we can send, we need to send two independent queries to each server, and query should be linked to parameter B, which is kept in secret by the client. Let me demonstrate how it works by means of a simple example. And before I do it, let me construct a simple K-server private information retrieval protocol, which is K-1 private. So in this protocol, the identity of file of interest is kept private from up to K-1 server. To do so, we assign to each server non-zero point from find field FP and let EI be indicator vector of file of interest. To do so, let us generate random vectors R1 till Rk-1 of the same length as an indicator vector of file of interest. And after it, we create a random curve that passes through the point 0 EI. So the curve is presented here. So it's EI plus R1 times U till Rk-1 times U in power K-1. And server I as a query gets the value of phi in point UI. So it's the value of this random curve in non-zero field element point assigned to this server. And clearly, K-1 queries do not disclose any information about EI because we just secretly share by Shamir secret sharing scheme the indicator vector of file of interest. So we Shamir share EI. And after it, as before, we ask server I to find the scalar product of queries, so the value of polynomial phi in point UI and the database vector. And as a result, we clearly get a polynomial psi and its value in point UI. So like, and each server send us the value back. So as a result, we get the values of polynomial psi in k different point. And clearly, the value of this polynomial in point 0 is just xi. Why? Because the value of polynomial phi in point 0 is indicator vector, and clearly the value of polynomial psi in point 0 is just a scalar product of indicator vector of file of interest and the database vector. So we finally get xi, and clearly psi is a polynomial of degree k-1, and by well-known Lagrange interpolation technique, we know that k responses are enough to interpolate with polynomial, and as a result, we can find the value of this polynomial in point 0 and get the value of file of interest, we get xi. How to transform this scheme to verifiable one? How can we check what xi which we retrieve is correct, and importantly, how we can estimate from above the probability of adversary success? How we can estimate the fact that adversary persuade us to accept incorrect file of interest? And to do so, the user chooses secret non-zero parameter v from the same field fp, which is used to assign points to our servers, and independently request to retrieve file xi and v times xi. So we get two values, xi and v times xi, and these values are linked through the parameter v, which is hidden. And so using this fact, we can check the connection of retrieved values and make a conclusion about the correctness of file which we retrieve. How to do so? Very simple. So let EI, as before, be indicator vector of file of interest. Here we generate two sets of random vectors, R1 till Rk minus 1, of same length as EI, and R1 prime till Rk minus prime, also as the same length as EI. And we first generate random curve that passes to the point 0 EI. And to do so, we use the first set of random vectors. And after it, we create independent random curve which passes to the point 0 and v times EI. And here, to make this curve independent, we use another set of random vectors R1 prime till Rk minus 1 prime. As a result, each server receives 2 points, psi ui and psi prime ui. So ui, as before, is a non-zero field element corresponds to the server I. And after it, as before, each server finds two scalar products. So before it was one, now it finds two scalar products. So it finds scalar product of psi ui and the database vector and gets the value of polynomial psi in point ui and also phi in prime in point ui and the database vector, and as a result get psi prime in point ui. And clearly the value of these two polynomials psi and psi prime in point 0 are equals to xi and v times xi, and k responses are clearly enough to interpolate both polynomials by Lagrange interpolation, because it's the polynomials of degree k minus 1. And after the user checks the following condition that v times psi in point 0 is equals to psi prime in point 0. So it's a simple protocol, but how we can estimate the probability of adversarial success, how we can estimate from above the fact what adversary can convince us that incorrect file has a following link between two values of polynomials. So we can write xi, which is actually the value of psi in point 0, as a linear combination of responses from our k server. So it's a1 times psi in point u1 till ak times psi in point uk. So let us denote it as u big. Also, v small times xi is actually psi prime in point 0. So it's actually also the linear combination of responses to the second queries from k server. So it's a1 times psi prime in point u1 till ak times psi prime in point uk, and that is denoted as v big. Let us, without loss of generality, assume that servers first k minus 1 servers are adversarial and respond with psi tilde and psi prime tilde. As a result, instead of u big and v big, we get u big tilde and v big tilde. So you can see what is the difference. The difference is highlighted by the red. So like we have first k minus 1 terms different, and we need to estimate the probability what we as a client accept an incorrect file of interest, so that xi which we achieve is incorrect, so that u big is non-equal to u big prime, while the verification equation is passed. So what we convinced that it's correct, but in fact it's incorrect. So what does it mean? It means that v small times u big tilde is equals to v big tilde. How to estimate the probability of adversarial success? Here we will need a Schwarz-Zippel lemma, and before we can make the note that v small times u big is equals to v big, because for correct values of retrieved file of interest, verification equation passed, so it's trivial. And if the verification equation is passed for incorrect file of interest, so if v small times u big tilde is equals to v big tilde, when we can subtract one from another and get v big tilde minus v big is equals to v small times u big tilde minus u for u big tilde minus u is non-zero. The last condition follows from the fact that we retrieve incorrect file, so that we achieve something which is not equal to the value of xi which we had to retrieve. And as a result, we can form the following polynomial from v small. So v big tilde minus v big minus v small times u big tilde minus u. And importantly, v big tilde minus v is under control of adversary, because adversary controls the difference between psi tilde and psi, and the same holds for u big tilde minus u, because it's also under control of adversary. However, the parameter v is unknown to adversary, and as a result, the success of adversary means that adversary can find the solution of the following equation on parameter v small, which can be estimated from above by Schwarz-Zippel lemma in finite fields. So here we have a parameter v, and parameter v is held in secret by the client. However, in some cases, we need to outsource the process of checking the correctness of file retrieval. So we want to outsource the process of verifying the correctness of private retrieval protocols. For example, in case of disputes between the servers and the client, how it can be done. And here we have the following notion from cryptography called public verifiability. And in this case, anyone who has responses from the servers can check the correctness of the server of the algorithm execution. And to do so, we choose a cyclic group of order p with generator g and send g in power v to external verifier. And external verifier get all responses and check that g in power v times xi is equals to g in power v times xi. How it can be done? So very simple. So server I, as before, receives psi in point ui and psi prime in point ui as queries, where ui is a point from finite field assigned to a server, and psi and psi prime are curve which pass through the point ei and v times ei, where ei is indicator vector of file of interest, and server I finds the value of polynomial psi in point ui. So it's like as before, phi in point ui times the database vector, and psi prime in point ui, which is actually psi prime in point ui times database vector. And clearly the values of these polynomials, psi and psi prime in point 0 are equal to xi and v times xi. And as before, k responses are enough to interpolate psi and psi prime and get psi 0 and psi prime in point 0. And as I told, external verifier are aware of the value of g in power v. So he or she can check g in power v in power psi 0 is equals to g in power psi prime in point 0. So, and can check this and can say that if this verification equation is passed, then with certain probability the file which we retrieve is correct. And but here is the price. So before we held the parameter v in secret by ourselves, and now we outsource g in power v, so making it publicly available, and everyone can check the characters of our protocol. And before, we used to check the correctness had been secured by Shamir secret sharing scheme, because v was injected in the second query sent to the servers, and queries was generated using Shamir secret sharing. And As a result, we had information theoretical security. And now we have G in power V, and we check linear combination over the exponent. And security here based on T-strong Diffie-Hellman inverse assumption, and as a result, we have only computational security. So we can only prove that we have a negligible probability of success of adversary for probabilistic in case when adversary is probabilistic polynomial time. So it's not any adversary, and with security is under some cryptographic assumption. And also what can be done, so as you can notice, we double the queries and double the responses, and we can also reduce extra communication cost incurred by verification, and to do so we can apply homomorphic hashes to the second part of responses and check the verification condition under homomorphic hashes. And this property especially can be used in case when we focus on download cost optimization, because in this case we assume that the size of the queries are negligible with respect to the size of the responses, and actually each file is an element of extremely large extended field, and here we can use at all homomorphic hashes. And the idea of homomorphic hashes is as follows. So homomorphic hash of alpha times A plus beta times B is equals to homomorphic hash of A times alpha times homomorphic hash of B times beta for A and B from extended field FPS and alpha and beta from the base field FP. And how we can construct, so here as just for example, I use construction of homomorphic hashes introduced for network coding problem, and here we choose the prime number R so that R minus 1 is divisible by P, and after choose non-zero elements G1 till Gs from that R of, and each of its element is of order P, and choose the basis of extended field FPS over FP and represent each element of extended field as a vector of length S in base field, and define the homomorphic hash of element Y from extended field as the following product. So G1 times Y1 till GS times YS over modulus R. And the security here for this scheme is based on discrete logarithm assumption and typical parameters presented here. And as a result, what's going on? So like I receives Psi in point UI and Psi prime in point UI, and as before, each server finds the scalar product of queries with the database vectors. So find Psi in point UI, which is equals to phi in point UI times the database vector, and Psi prime in point UI, which is equals to phi prime in point UI times database vector, and server response with values of Psi in point UI and hash of Psi prime in point UI. So before server response with Psi and Psi prime, now Psi and hash of Psi prime. Why? Because we need to retrieve the file of interest, so we can't respond with hash of first response. So like we have to send the whole first response, but to check the character, we can check under hashes. So we can send the hash of Psi prime in point 0, which is equals to the hash of Psi prime in point UI, and clearly hash of Psi prime in point 0 is the hash of V times Xi, because Psi prime in point 0 is equals to V times Xi. And same time, Psi in point 0 is equals to Xi. And clearly, since Psi prime in point 0 is a linear combination of server responses, the hash is the linear combination of hashes of the Psi prime in point UI. So it's linear combination of hashes of the second responses. And since it's homomorphic hash, we can easily find it. So like here I presented the formal derivation. So like hash of C prime in point 0 is equals to hash of A1 times C prime in point U1 plus AK times C prime in point UK is equals to hash of C prime in point U1, what we get from CR1 in power A1 times still hash of C prime in point UK, so what we get from the 0K in power AK, in the A1 till AK are known to everyone, so because it's a Lagrange interpolation coefficients, and we can actually check what hash of C prime in point 0 is equals to hash of B times C in point 0. So since C in point 0 is known to us and V is known to us because we are client, so we can find V times C in point 0 and find the homomorphic hash of this quantity and compare it with homomorphic hash of C prime in point 0, which we got from the second from the responses to the second queries. And security of such scheme is based on security of employed homomorphic hashes. So like if the security based on discrete logarithm assumption, the security of whole scheme is based on discrete log assumption. And in this case, we get computational security for probabilistic polynomial time adversary. And in this case, it's based on discrete logarithm assumption. That's all. So like in my talk, I present a unified classification of adversarial resistance for private information retrieval protocols. I propose general polynomial private information retrieval scheme, which covers under the same umbrella different private information retrieval protocols, including protocols by Goldberg and Woodruff-Hamlin. I proposed information theoretically verifiable scheme for general polynomial private information retrieval protocol and demonstrate how it works in the example of Goldberg scheme. I proposed publicly verifiable scheme, and also I introduced the ways to reduce extra communication cost incurred by verification by introducing the homomorphic hashes to the responses to the second queries. This paper was published in a EEE Transactions Information Forensics and Security in September last year and is available by with QR code. So thanks for inviting me. Thanks for your attention. And if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanislav. That was very interesting. Are there any questions from the audience? You can put your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A field. Okay, maybe while people are coming up with questions, I had a quick question. So for public verifiability, again, I'm assuming that the client is sampling the random V, right?
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that is why you do not get public accountability. In some sense, you only get verifiability because the client can choose some V and later on claim that it actually sampled a completely different V. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah.
Okay, so have you, I mean, just have you thought about if there is a way for us to sort of somehow publicly sample V or commit to V in advance before before the server sort of computes the output to make sure that the client cannot lie about V, and in that way will we be able to get accountability?
So really interesting question. I didn't actually think about it. So maybe it's actually a good way for further research because yeah, it's actually a good problem. Yeah, because here the important thing is that the queries are generated by the client, and client has to be aware of parameter V because he or she injects V in his or her queries. So like, but if it is generated by someone external, so external has to transfer V to the client. So like what he or she can generate the query. So like it's actually a good question how to do it.
Actually,
Yeah.
I mean, the client, I mean, you don't even need an external entity to sample V. You could also have the client sample V and sort of commit to it before the rest of the protocol proceeds. I mean, okay,
Yeah.
in which case now client is bound to the specific V that they've committed to. And later on, they can just send an opening to this commitment.
Yeah, maybe can I think, yeah, let me think about it. Yeah, maybe yes.
Although maybe the issue with this is that even though you will be able to make sure that the client cannot lie about sort of having chosen a different V, there is still no way to tell which of the servers was behaving adversarially.
Yeah, actually, in my case, I can only say that like the
The
final
output.
result is incorrect. Yeah. We cannot say which server is lying. So like we only check the characters of final result. So like we can't
Yeah,
account which one is like.
right. I guess yeah, that's where this breaks down. Yeah. Yeah, I see. Also, just to clarify, I know you mentioned this at the beginning of your talk. So for accountability, do we know of information theoretic solutions? I mean, not public accountability, just accountability.
So actually, I am not aware of such schemes. Maybe they exist, but like when I made a literature review for TIF's publication, I have not found any of the solutions. So maybe it was proposed recently, but I'm not aware. So like,
I see. I see. Um, okay. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay. So Anastasia is asking, are there any restrictions on how much information is shared to the user by the servers during public verification?
how much information shared to the user by the server? Shared to the user by the server using public verification. So thank you for the great questions. So actually, if you're asking about how many information is get by the external verifier. So actually there's a recent paper by one of my co-authors, Lengfeng Zhang, where we propose a scheme with content hiding property, because here when we outsource the verification for external verifier, the external verifier can get some extra information about the value X, about the index of file of interest. So like, and we can like try to additionally hide with index, and like, yeah, it was like recently like considered. So like, yeah.
Okay, then. Thank you, Stanislav. Very interesting work. Thank you for, yeah, great talk.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
a lot,
you for the
Stanislav.
inviting me.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot. So attendees, we'll see you next week, same time. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Have a great one.
Thank you. Yeah.